In this video, we will be talking about Amazon advertising, Amazon PPC. This is a very important part for every Amazon business to invest. And if you want exposure of your products on Amazon Marketplace, probably you're using advertising platform of Amazon. In this session, we have a guest from Perpetua. It's a software solution for Amazon and other marketplace sellers, which helps to automate and intelligently run your advertising campaigns. We will talk about this in a minute. And if you have any questions during this session, type in the chat, and our guest from Perpetua will be answering. And our guest today is Christie McLean. So, Christie, hello.
Hello, Augustas. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us very shortly what is Perpetua?
Absolutely. I'm Christie. Nice to see everyone. Nice to meet everyone. I am a data strategist here at Perpetua. Perpetua is a growth optimization tool. I do have some slides that might help.
Yeah, we can
there we
go
go.
through.
We can
see them. Yes, we see it. So let's learn about Perpetua, and meanwhile, we will start with questions after this short presentation.
Yeah, perfect. So like I said, data strategist at Perpetua. We are a team of over 100 today. And ultimately, my job is to work with clients like those of you on the chat today. That our kind of a tagline is that we give superpowers to anyone who's selling online. So specifically Amazon with our group here today. However, in North America, a ton of demand for other marketplaces, especially North America, such as Walmart and GoPuff, Instacart. So really we support over and above just the Amazon marketplace. We like to think of ourselves as kind of that single platform. And ultimately what we want to do is help you accelerate that growth. So the marketplace advertising optimization, like I talked about, that daily bid adjustment, that auto harvesting that's happening, that often can take up a lot of time throughout the day. Also display advertising. So we support sponsored display ad types, as well as the DSP, a full kind of creative production studio. So if creating the beautiful imagery and videos has been challenging in the past, that's also something that we support, as well as retail intelligence reporting. So full kind of reporting suite there that will allow you to give kind of a bird's eye view of what's happening with advertising. I think something that is quite unique about the Perpetua platform is that we simplify through the use of goals. So almost a folder for campaigns to sit in, which helps to simplify our AI-powered ad engine, the kind of cross-marketplace ad unit optimization, like I said, so we can see Amazon, Instacart, Walmart, and Target on the slide there, and then that machine learning powered recommendation. So kind of the more data that we can feed our ad engine, the stronger and the better that it gets. I hope that that is a pretty comprehensive overview, but of course, if there are other questions, we can chat more about that too.
I will start with a more general one at the beginning. And so, Christie, could you tell us what are the main differences between sponsored product and sponsored brand ads?
Yeah, absolutely. So the three different ad types available on Amazon, kind of within Amazon, are sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. Sponsored products, you'll see those ones on the search results page. So kind of peppered in. Amazon does a really good job of making them almost look organic. Before I stepped into the ad retail space myself, I didn't know that they were that they were ads. I thought because it said sponsored, Amazon was really excited about the product. I didn't know that I was actually costing the advertisers money by clicking on the ads. But all three are a CPC model. Sponsored products also can appear on the PDP, so the product detail page. And those are peppered in at the bottom, just underneath the kind of main listing at the top. Where sponsored brands differs is a little bit more, I like to say, creativity can be exerted. So the option to add sponsored brand video and create a bit more of a narrative, to include custom images within the ad type, kind of painting a picture of what the product could look like in that shopper's life. So a little bit more of a kind of expression of creativity, if you will, allowed through sponsored brands. And you'll see those ones at the top of smack dab top of the search results page. So to me, one of the more obvious ad types. They're also peppered in closer to the bottom of the search results page. And then, of course, sponsored display. We can't forget about sponsored display. That is on the product detail page. You'll see kind of two ad units sitting above the fold on the product detail page. And there's also kind of key capability with sponsored display that allows you to retarget off of Amazon. So a really great opportunity to kind of get on Amazon owned inventory outside of Amazon's website and drive shoppers right to your PDP.
All right, and I see questions are coming in. So the first one is from Mika. Why, when we have a campaign that is only targeting product pages, ASINs, the search terms report shows keywords in it?
So what might be happening here is the auto campaign could be picking up on some search queries that you're perhaps not bidding on. I've seen this before. Auto is comprised of kind of a few unique research elements. So you'll see kind of loose match and close match, substitutes. And those are going to continually harvest both, well, not harvest, but find. And it's up to you to really harvest those if you're not using a PPC tool. I think that might be where you would want to explore. If you do have any auto happening there, the auto could be picking up on it, and you'll see it in the search term report.
All right. Next question we have from Muhammad. What strategy would you recommend for the new launched products?
Good question. I love this. All right. So a few things to keep in mind. I would say first thing is think about if you already have a similar product that has been advertised for some time. If so, we have a ton of data that we can use to kind of help launch this product. The kind of strategy that I might think about if you do have a product that shares a keyword overlap would be to group the new product in with the we'll call it legacy product, if you will. And that can really help to drive momentum. Obviously, when we're grouping these products together in the same campaign, Amazon makes that decision on what gets the impression. But what I do find is that it can drive some momentum for the new product a little bit and start to activate that Amazon flywheel. I would definitely think about how retail ready the PDP for the new product is. So we want to drive those reviews. We want to be using review programs where we can. And I would say at the point of about 15 reviews, it's time to really put some spend behind that new product. A great starting point is using auto campaigns, checking out the category. So actually going into Amazon, searching for the category and targeting the PDPs of comparably priced products. And then, of course, for some of those starter keyword targets to go after, you could check out the comparable PDP, competitor PDPs, check out what kind of keywords they have listed within that page. Especially when it pertains to the bullets there, what are they really pushing? And it'll give you a really good indication of what keywords could start to drive some traction for that product. Just generally, we can expect for new products to have that higher ACoS. It's going to be a little bit more expensive in the outset. So in the first couple months, expect that ACoS to be high. And then slowly we want to try and drop that down as we've driven reviews, we've got momentum going on the campaigns, and we can start to put more spend, therefore, behind that product now that it's operating at a lower ACoS.
Actually, it would be interesting to know what important Amazon advertising reports you think sellers should focus on.
Yeah, it's a good one. I would say kind of first and foremost, the search term report and just having a pulse on kind of what's happening there. How is it changing? Especially when we go through these kind of peak periods, such as Prime Day, such as the gifting season. Oftentimes these change. So you can use kind of 2021 to at least give you a starting point as to what to expect for 2022 in terms of trends, for where we're bidding, where we're actually spending during these peak periods. So for sure, the search term report is probably my kind of most honest source of where I can drive strategy. But I would also say that the anything related to tacos, so your total ACoS, it also includes your organic sales within that metric there, the formula being, what am I spending on advertising? And then the denominator of that formula being, what are my total sales? So how can I include my organic sales within that metric for a full picture? To be honest, that to me speaks much more holistically about where your spend is going than just paying attention to ACoS and looking solely at advertising. So yeah, I think the kind of sales diagnostic reports and the search term reports are fantastic, but I also know that Amazon is really releasing quite quickly pertaining to reports. So it'll be interesting to see what 2022 brings.
All right, thank you. So we have a few more questions. By the way, Muhammad, who was asking previous questions, says thank you. And also I see another person, he's from Pakistan, Earl is from Philippines. We have someone from UK watching and even from South Australia. So
Awesome.
a lot of time zones.
All right, time zones. Good night,
yeah.
good morning.
Yeah. All right. So Abdul wants to know, I need to ask about PPC strategies for cosmetics. It is a very competitive niche. Amazon itself selling there. Can you please share some strategies to get conversion on generic keywords in this niche of cosmetics?
I mean, not to worry, Abdul. It's not just you in the cosmetics niche that Amazon itself is selling. I completely understand the kind of CPCs are high. Competitors are coming into the space quickly, which kind of drives that CPC up. What I would say is I would go back to your original question there. So sharing strategies on getting conversion on these generic keywords. So I would call those kind of flagship category keywords. So we're talking, as it pertains to makeup, keywords such as eyeshadow or blush, shampoo. These really, really short tail keywords are going to be very expensive to play in. So what I would encourage you to think about is, how can I go a little bit more long tail? We'll see that CPCs will be a little bit lower because less people are kind of bidding on these specific spaces, on these keyword spaces. So let's take eyeshadow, for example. I really love eyeshadow myself, so I'm going to use that. Instead of just saying, eyeshadow, what about kind of brown eyeshadow natural, right? let's start to think about how we can kind of own a smaller niche long tail space so that we can actually start to drive those reviews, activate that Amazon flywheel, and therefore maybe we start to bid on eyeshadow exact to start. I would be mindful of match types here. So probably where we don't want to go right off the bat is something that's really short tail, one of those flagship category keywords with all of our match types. So exact, phrase, and broad, because we'll just see a ton of spend. And we haven't really proven out those keywords. So I would definitely think about the long tail strategy, and the search term report can be a really good indication of what are people actually looking for, how are they searching, and what trends can I kind of pick up to start bidding on these long tail keywords.
All right, we have a question about ACoS. How to reduce ACoS, how to optimize best keywords?
I mean, a PPC tool like Perpetua, I gotta say it. But I would also pay really close attention to what I like to call scaling targets. So when I say the word targets, what I'm referring to is anything that I'm bidding on, keywords or ASIN targets. Oftentimes having a pulse on that kind of spend versus sales and consistently checking this, whether this is once a week, whether this is every day, it's going to depend on how much time you have within the day, is going to be really key. I would probably, in order to reduce ACoS, get really granular here. So where am I seeing that my spend is actually scaling and it's converting into attributed sales? And where am I seeing that I'm spending, and I'm not seeing that same sense of traction? I'm not scaling at all. In those cases, maybe we want to kind of bid down. Maybe we want to find a variation of that keyword. So kind of that long tail conversation that we just had, and pick up on something that could work, try that for a little while. But in order to kind of optimize keywords, I would pay close attention to where am I pushing spend and seeing the return versus not at all, and then adjust my bids accordingly. I think that the auto campaign, so that search term report is going to give you an indication of what the auto campaign has caught, whether it's a PAT target, whether it's a keyword target, and you can start bidding on those. So don't forget about the auto campaign. Don't just set it and forget it. But instead have an eye on what is it picking up on? Where can I actually start adding these to manual keyword campaigns, to my PAT campaigns? And ultimately, I think that that's going to be kind of the fastest way to get that ACoS down, spending in the right places.
All right. It seems that Abdul asking about cosmetics, he is happy and he says he will surely focus on long tail keywords. Next one is from Rami. What should I do if I have low ACoS and high TACoS?
Low ACoS, high TACoS. Well, when we think about this calculation, ACoS is just our, like the formula being my spend over my attributed sales, but TACoS is my spend over all total sales, so organic and attributed sales. So just by nature of the calculation, I'm wondering how accurate that could be. Yeah, Rami, that's my initial response is like, let's check the calculation. Let's make sure that we're calculating properly, because most of the time, so long as you're driving organic sales, your TACoS should be lower than your ACoS.
All right. I think this could be interesting. How should sellers put together a list of ASINs they should target? Like, what are your suggestions?
Yeah. Again, I think that auto is a great place to start. But I would also argue that doing your own research on Amazon is very, very kind of worth the investment of time. So a good starting place is clicking into the node. Amazon calls it a node, or the category, and just doing a bit of your own research. Specifically, if you have kind of a high value product, you want to make sure that you're kind of targeting and using this strategically. How can I find comparable products so that my expensive product is not appearing on a lower value products page? I'm probably going to get impressions, maybe I'll get a few clicks, but I can't expect to see a ton of conversion if I'm targeting the wrong PDPs. On the other side of things, if you have a low price product, maybe you want to find those higher priced ASINs, and we want to start targeting those, especially if you've got a kind of healthy amount of reviews and a healthy star rating. This could be a really good opportunity to try and kind of steal that share, to try and grab some sales from those competitor PDPs. But overall, just pay close attention to kind of that price point, review number, and the rating itself. I would want to make sure that we are appearing on comparable pages and making sure that that relevancy piece is there, so that we can actually get some clicks and conversions.
All right. We have a question. No, this one was there. So Mohammed, he says, thanks for answering the first question. Next one is, do you recommend to go for manual targeting in the beginning?
Definitely auto is going to help. I'll share a little bit of insight around how our ad engine at Perpetua harvests. And I think that replicating this, via human behavior is something that you can very easily do. The campaigns that I mentioned, that kind of goal structure that we mentioned, it kind of works alongside, the campaigns work alongside each other. So we've got let's talk about, we call it a universal goal type. Really fantastic if you're launching a new product, or if you don't have people searching, shoppers searching for the product with kind of that brand name. Your brand relevancy isn't quite there yet. What we would look at in a universal goal is 3 campaigns. We've got an auto campaign, a manual keyword campaign, and a pack campaign. And they kind of work together. We've got our auto campaign that is here for research. It's going out, it's exploring, it's finding those ASIN and those keyword targets. And when we see conversions on that auto campaign, we will negative match that target in the auto campaign and move it over to the manual keyword campaign or the pack campaign, depending on if it's an ASIN target or a keyword. So I think that very easily you can replicate this behavior. If it's perhaps a new product, you're asking in the beginning, so I'm thinking maybe a new to advertising product. What I would start with is an auto campaign, and then slowly start to build up these manual campaigns and the pack campaigns as you can find relevant targets. I think that auto is ultimately fantastic at kind of that research element, but you can also do your own research, start some manual targeting with a really low budget beside the auto.
All right. Mika really wants to get the answer, so he's clarifying. Yes, here is another way to ask. Why do we see impressions and traffic on the top of search and the rest of the search ad placements when we have campaign that is only targeting ASINs?
Okay. So keep in mind that there's some ties between Amazon's data. So specifically, when we're looking at PDPs, we have the indexing that's happening. And I think that is probably, get it. Yeah, I got it. So you're seeing impressions and traffic on top of search and rest of search when you are targeting ASINs only. And it's just because of the linking. So strategic keywords have ASINs that are linked to them. It's based on ranked data there. And that gives, you an advantage if you've got that tie. The ASIN is tied to these kind of strategic keywords. So that is probably what's happening there, Micah. I really want to see this search term report now. I think that it's an interesting strategy to only do pat targeting. And yeah, I think that the links between ASINs and keywords, do a quick Google on that, is probably what you're seeing in your search term report there.
All right, let's talk about the Prime Day, which is happening probably in about 2-3 months. What is the best ad to turn on the day of Prime Day? Sponsored ads, display ads?
I mean, it's a big one. We don't know when its official date will be this year. Amazon has yet to release, sometime in July. But I think that oftentimes the mistake that advertisers or sellers can make is, I'm going to turn ads on right as kind of Prime Day begins. So kind of the day before or the day of. But there is this kind of lead up period, and we want to be driving momentum throughout that lead up period. I think that kind of the 2 weeks before, we want to start thinking about, well, CPCs are going up, right? We've got a ton of traffic going through Amazon, and just by nature of that, everyone's going to want to spend. They're going to want to stay competitive. So that's ultimately kind of who you're competing against and why CPCs are going up. I think that kind of my number one strategy here is make sure you have your budgets up, whether that means conserving now to save that ad spend for these kind of peak events is up to you. Maybe you want to pull back spend just slightly to kind of prepare for that in the months prior, but expect to kind of drive that budget up. The reason that is because you've got more clicks kind of going through Amazon, and on a PPC model, you can expect that maybe you've got a €10 budget on your campaign. That might only earn you, maybe where today it was earning us 15 clicks, it might earn us 5 throughout that kind of Prime Day period. So first things first, make sure you have kind of that budget increased. And if you need to, this is an opportunity to start to pull back those bids just slightly so that spend can go further. Make sure that you, at this point, are starting to think about, okay, what products can I actually kind of promote that day? Where do I want to run coupons? Where can I really kind of push with my strategic products that are doing quite well? And where can I kind of pull back? Maybe we don't want to be pushing as hard on products that haven't proven themselves out in 2022 this far. So I think that it's a perfect time to start kind of driving that strategy. We're only in April and we've got a couple months to prepare. So just generally having a good idea there is important. As it pertains to sponsored ads, display ads, I'm always going to say all three. I mean, completely anecdotally, I've seen just generally Amazon really likes when advertisers have sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display activated. So I would say if you were to kind of push spend, I would go maybe 70% on sponsored products. I would go maybe 20% sponsored brands and 10% sponsored display. But that's just a kind of generalization. If you're maybe a newer seller, maybe you want to push more spend on sponsored brands just to get that kind of awareness piece going, paint the picture for kind of who you are, what you sell, and use that creative capability that Amazon has made available on sponsored brands. But I have to say all three. I just think that sponsored products is most important, but all three are important.
All right, great. So people who asked questions before, they are really happy. No problem. Thank you, Mika says. Muhammad says, awesome. Now a question from Vision. Auto campaign. Should we make 4 campaigns each, lose, close, substitute, comp, etc.? and post 3 or keep $1 minimum?
So I think it depends on kind of what industry you are playing in. For kind of general best practice here, I would say choose either loose or close match. And then on kind of the flip side, you can choose, I prefer substitutes. I've seen kind of better success there. I think that Amazon does a really good job of kind of research on substitutes, we can say, but choose one of loose or close match and one of substitutes. Or let me find I'm going to pull up my document here and I will tell you exactly. I've got it, Augustus. I just wanted to make sure I got it right. So your complements and your substitutes, those are what's harvesting ASINs, and your loose match and close match are harvesting keywords. So you can imagine that you can choose one of loose or close, the other complements or substitutes. But I mean, ultimately, that auto campaign, especially for new products, especially during kind of peak periods such as gifting seasons, are important. But I would say you could choose one of each.
All right, we have a question from Angelica. Hi, Christy. How many clicks for a non-sale keyword before you conclude it as irrelevant to your product? Also, do you add it as a negative?
So I think that it's important to talk about kind of the seasonality of keywords. I would generally say anywhere from 10 clicks and above, and we're not seeing those conversions, you could almost kind of call it irrelevant. It's a bit of a generalization, but again, I think that it will depend on your industry, how competitive it is, how much of a long tail versus category kind of flagship keyword this is. But generally what I'll kind of work with my clients on is 10 clicks and above. Adding as a negative, I want to kind of preface here with negative matching can be a little bit dangerous sometimes. So in the case of negative phrase matching, if you negative phrase match the wrong word, it could be detrimental, right? We could be not serving, not actually getting that impression on a ton of traffic that we would want, right? That's quite similar to what we negative phrase matched. So in the case of I'm seeing clicks but no conversions, I would probably just apply kind of a downward bid. And only in the case of something that, I mean, we can all kind of use our best guess here. If it's completely unrelated to the product, if it is out of season, so it's something that people would only be searching for around kind of that gifting season, in those cases, I would recommend a negative exact match.
All right, the next question from Mohammed, another one. Which strategy would you recommend for low demand products? I'm most targeting ASIN for generating sales.
Which strategy would you recommend for low demand products? So I think here what's important, Mohammed, is probably that you want to conserve spend. So what I would think about is almost like a kind of catch-all campaign. I mean, if you do a quick Google for catch-all campaigns, you'll find a lot of content. So I would think about how can I kind of group my low demand products that make sense together in the same campaign. So we want to group together the same products if they share that keyword overlap. If shoppers are looking for these products in a similar way, maybe you've got all of your kind of t-shirt products together, and then you've got all of your shoe products together. Fine, it makes sense. The kind of tactic that I could recommend here for conserving spend is grouping those products within the same campaign, and then just kind of running with really low bids but for a broader space. So kind of this concept of catch-all would be low bids. We want to be catching what we can with things like broad and phrase, but we don't want to be bidding high on those flagship category keywords. We don't want to be kind of spending where we know we won't convert. So yeah, grouping and just, I would say, bidding low, catching what we can with broad and phrase match types.
Earl wants to know, how do you allocate your budget for PPC?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that the first thing you want to do is segment out your products and look really closely here. So it might not be as simple as, oh, I know that this product line does really well, but actually go into the data with the child ASINs. You'll kind of within minutes be able to make some conclusions on your bestsellers. Maybe it's a specific color or a specific size. Some variant will probably be doing better than the rest. So the first thing I would recommend is segmenting out what are my high performing products versus my kind of lower performers. The high performers is ultimately where you want to be putting your spend. The low performers, we just kind of had a conversation around that. Group where you can. We want to be, using things like auto there, but we don't want to be putting a ton of spend behind that. What we do want to be putting our efforts, our spend, our kind of extra time behind are those bestsellers. I would say, again, a bit of a generalization, but maybe 60 to 70% spend allocation on the products we know do really well. And then, yes, it's spend, but also kind of your own time, right? That's something that's quantifiable. That's something that we want to make the most of. So I would say spend maybe 60 to 70% on those high performers and the remaining on low performers. What could work really, really well if we want to get strategic here is looking closely at that high performer data and separating out those high performers into their own campaigns. So we'll talk eyeshadow in the spirit of our cosmetics conversation. Let's say I sell kind of a number of different shades of eyeshadow. I look at this data and it tells me that my blue eyeshadow is my very clear bestseller. I've got it living in a child ASIN, and the parent ASIN includes all of the different variations, so all the different colors that I sell. In this case, something that you could try is pulling that child ASIN out and it can still operate in a number of different campaigns too. That's fine. But pull that blue eyeshadow out, that best performer child, into its own campaign. And here's where we have the opportunity to go really, really granular with those keywords. So maybe as it pertains to kind of the descriptive keywords, specifically blue eyeshadow with maybe your brand name. And we can guarantee if we've got that product living in its own campaign that it will continue to serve, right? Amazon's no longer making the decision on which child is going to get the impression. So it's a really good opportunity to bid hard there, try and secure TOS where we can, put some money behind sponsored brands, get some really creative imagery going about this product. I know it was a very long answer to how to allocate budget, but it contains a lot of detail. And I think that you have a lot of opportunity just by segmenting out your low performers and your high performers on the level of detail of that variant.
Oh, please tell us, what are the main reasons why a lot of sellers are burning their PPC budgets fast and not effectively?
I think a big mistake that I've seen is kind of setting and forgetting. So turning advertising on, leaving it, and never actually looking at the data itself. So something as simple as checking out, like, what is the auto campaign picking up, right? Instead of letting the auto campaign kind of find those searches, why not bid on what the auto campaign has found, especially if we've seen a couple of conversions there. I think that overspending on low performers is a big one I've seen as well. If it's had 6 months to a year of having some healthy spend behind it and it's still operating at an ACoS that you're not happy with, we need to think about, maybe I should only be advertising. At Perpetua, we call it day parting. But maybe I should be advertising at the kind of high traffic times of the day or low traffic times of the day. I don't need to be advertising all day long for this product. And then I would say overall, probably the biggest mistake, and again, this is just the effect of not actually monitoring the data, is cannibalizing on your organic sales. So we're over advertising in the places that perhaps we don't need to be. When we think about kind of an ASIN that has some great rank, to put it quite simply, let's imagine the kind of 4 TOS placements at the top of a search results page. What mistake I see quite often is I'm really, really putting a lot of spend behind securing one of the first 4 places here. I am usually paying, the CPCs are quite high for those placements, so I'm usually paying quite a bit for each click, yet my product ranks just under. So I've got like the top row, second row, and maybe I would have earned that click organically anyways without paying for it. So this concept of cannibalizing your own organic sales is a big one. And then look for kind of that keyword overlap. We don't want to see a ton of wasted spend with a ton of campaigns kind of bidding on the same or really, really similar spaces. So just that kind of wasted spend element is oftentimes what results from not monitoring your data, not downloading those reports and really, really reading into them and actioning them.
Great, thank you. So we had a question. Now we have a little clarification. So what is a minimum unit session percentage from business reports for conversion so that we can expect good PPC results?
I might have to follow up on this one. I don't feel comfortable saying, I only like to give a recommendation if I feel like I'm an expert in something, and I don't feel like I am an expert on this answer. So I'm going to make a note here.
Yeah.
And if we find this on YouTube, I'll comment within the YouTube comments. And I will ask a colleague, because I would rather give an answer I feel confident about than try and guess my way through.
All right, so let's talk about Prime Day again. Actually, how to get more sales after Prime Day? How do we usually retarget and re-engage the audience from the PPC ads?
Yeah. I think kind of the best tactic that Amazon has for kind of retargeting is through sponsored display. This is the only capability that you have within Amazon sponsored ads to actually advertise off of Amazon. So imagine how much inventory Amazon owns outside of, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk. And we have a ton of data that we can make use of from Amazon. So specifically what I'm referring to is the audience retargeting capabilities on sponsored display. A couple of options here. There's the potential to remarket to, so, serve that impression, serve that ad outside of Amazon for shoppers that viewed a PDP like yours. So you can imagine that those are competitor products, but didn't convert, or the alternative option to retarget would be they viewed your PDP and didn't convert. So a pretty incredible set of data that Amazon has. And I would say that that's a really easy and effective way to target those customers. What's great is that it is a PPC model. So you really are paying only if that shopper is clicking. And I think that is probably the most useful way to target shoppers if you're not leveraging Amazon's DSP.
Good. Leonard is asking about Perpetua, but before we go into that, let me disable this one. Actually, I wanted to, it's a good time to mention Perpetua again. Christie, so I know that Perpetua is a intelligence software for Amazon and other marketplace sellers to automate and optimize and to manage the campaigns, right? So
yeah, exactly. I think like so much of what we've discussed today, you can imagine that while a lot of this can be done manually, of course you can read into your search term reports and move keywords around and apply those downward bid adjustments, or apply upward bid adjustments where we want to kind of push harder. All of this is happening through automation with Perpetua. So whereas I said one of the biggest mistakes is not monitoring, in fact, the automation can very easily do that for you. So you really can kind of relax knowing that a software and automation is looking after you. I think the simplification of advertising is something that oftentimes kind of comes out of using a tool like Perpetua. And I definitely encourage this group to check us out at perpetua.io. We've got a fantastic blog. Just this week, we released our EU benchmark reports, and our North American benchmark reports went live last week. So our blog is full of a ton of tricks and tips for you. And then, of course, those benchmark reports. If you want to see kind of how you're comparing to the industry, what were the trends we saw in Q1 versus Q4, you could check out our Q4 and Q1 benchmarks right on our website.
And here comes the Leonard's question: how much would I need to devote to optimize Perpetuas each week?
Okay, so Leonard, I oftentimes ask my clients at the beginning. So most clients come to us because there's kind of that lack of time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and we want to be using that on strategy, less on like admin and monitoring and doing a lot of the kind of manual work that's required to be a sophisticated advertiser. So they usually come to me with, I have a lack of time. And I ask them, how much time are you spending on kind of managing campaigns, setting up new campaigns, changing your bids every day? And usually it's somewhere between 9 to 12 hours is the response that I get. And I ask them, okay, if we can get that down to 2 hours, would that be successful for you? And they say yes. And then at the 3-month mark, I usually revisit that question and I ask them, hey, did we get you down to 2 hours spent on Perpetua? And I have yet to hear I'm spending more than 2 hours. So I would say these are oftentimes really sophisticated advertisers that are spending a lot of their time kind of in Perpetua, anywhere from 9 to 12 hours pre-Perpetua. We can knock that down to a couple hours a week. So that's my honest answer, and that's coming right from like real conversations I've had.
And yeah, Leonard, if you want, you will check the links below in the description if you want to check their software, sign up, and contact them.
Yeah, I would also add, Augustus, like in addition to the kind of core software, something that this group would be interested in is we have access to funding, access to aggregators if you are looking to sell, and then of course a ton of content. So things like those benchmark reports, and I think a lot of that is a huge value add for sellers over and above just the core software. It is worth mentioning.
We do have some appreciation messages. Thank you, Christie. Angelica was asking before. Earl was asking also. Thanks, Christie. And now comes Mohammed is asking how to increase sale if video advertising, probably.
Yeah. So prior to me jumping into all things kind of Amazon advertising, I was working at Shutterstock, creating bespoke content. So oftentimes videos and photos for Amazon. So I love this question, and it might be our last one. So I'm really happy we're closing with this. Videos for sponsored brand video. Let's kind of hit the high points. The majority of people who are looking for products on Amazon are probably not going to have their sound on. This isn't Netflix. They're not looking to kind of sit here and be entertained. So we want to make sure that our videos are completely translatable, we can say, without any sound. If the shopper is listening on mute and scrolling on their mobile phone while waiting for the train to come, we want to make sure that they're engaged. So catch that attention within the first kind of 3 to 5 seconds, and then make sure that we're getting the message across really quickly without sound. What tends to work well is kind of faster paced videos. We don't want to see anything that's too long or drawn out where the shopper has to wait for what this video is trying to tell me. I think that the video for just generally sponsored brands, you can follow some of the best practices that we talked about today. You could try long tail keywords that really describe what the product is or does or looks like, instead of trying to hit some of those flagship category keywords that often are more expensive, and then follow some creative best practices there, like I mentioned.
All right. So do you have a few more minutes, or you are sharp in 2 minutes?
No, I'm okay to keep going.
We have 2 more questions. So
Sure.
one is from Peter. I have a patented $17-20 product that is much higher priced than the inferior imported from China products. How would I go about my very first ad campaign?
Okay. I would say first things first, let's try and drive reviews. Let's make sure that that PDP is retail ready. I would not discount the capabilities of using a headline on sponsored brands ads. So if you believe that the product is, yes, it is higher priced than the inferior imported China product, then why should the shopper actually pay more for the product? So to use that headline capability to describe like what makes this product great. Oftentimes you can do so on the PDP as well, but we have to get the shopper to the PDP in the first place. So the headline, sponsored brand headline that you can use is a really good opportunity to run some A/B testing. So try different kind of copy, try different messaging there. Where are we seeing clicks? Where are we seeing those initial conversions? And then the second, that can also help to inform the PDP as well, the listing itself, based on like any A/B testing you're running there. And then I would also say on the second one, you could try pack campaigns. So finding the right products to target, those that are comparable in price to yours, those that potentially we could assume would be purchased by the same type of shopper, that kind of like shopper persona would actually purchase. So use PAT to target the right PDPs, and use sponsored brands with the kind of the creative messaging that you can use there to explain why this product has the price point that it does.
All right. And the very last question is from Vision. All products, should we run auto or pause and run only manual campaigns if we have enough data?
Old product. So I think what we're referring to here is a legacy product. Should we run auto or pause and run only manual? If you haven't seen success with the auto campaign, like you can hear, I think that auto campaigns can be fantastic. It's essentially like, you know, a digital friend for us that's going out and exploring and researching instead of us like really guessing, because that's what the world can become if we're only using manual. It is a bit of guesswork sometimes, but I would say if your auto hasn't generated sales or is operating at an ACoS that you're not happy with, and happy with could mean a number of things. It could mean you're not profitable. It could mean that you think it's too high. But I would generally say if the auto is spending and we're not seeing the same level of conversions of attributed sales there, you could try the strategies that we talked about with the low performing products. So group some of them together to conserve spend. Not every parent needs to be living in its own campaign necessarily. If they share that keyword space, group them together. And then you could run kind of lower bids on some phrase and broad, creating a bit more of that catch-all campaign that we had described. And of course, this is only if we are not performing on this old product, which was my assumption there.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for the questions. Thank you, Christie, for answering in details everything. One more time, Perpetua can help you to intelligently optimize and automate your Amazon advertising campaigns. Also, Perpetua works with few other marketplaces, right, Christie?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in North America, there might be some interest from Walmart. It's really progressing quite quickly, the Walmart space right now. Instacart, GoPuff, a number of different retailers are kind of really blowing up across North America. Check us out at perpetua.io, and you can read more about some of those other marketplaces we support too.
Perfect. So everybody's happy. I see Peter Vass says, thank you, Augustas. And Christie Muhammad says, thank you. Earl says, he said before, thanks. Oh,
Awesome.
says again. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Christie. And,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Augustas.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And now I would like to invite you to watch other session we did with Perpetua in the past.